Hello and welcome to SAFEtember. Today's session is all around your nutrition and wellness. My name is Elly Rees and I'm a nutritionist that's going to be talking you through some general tips on your general nutrition and wellness. So today we're going to be looking at a number of topics. The first is the basics of your nutrition and the macronutrients involved. Then we're going to be looking at how to eat well, and also then how applying that knowledge to practice. Following that, we'll be looking at the impact of nutrition on immunity and also how that's relevant to the current COVID crisis. Then we'll be looking at the nutritional impact of your mental well-being and what that means to help and improve. Finally, there'll be some general information on food portioning and food labeling, as these are super important when it comes to educating ourselves around nutrition. So what are our basic needs? Your diet dictates 70% of your body mass. This means that your body is dictated by what goes in your mouth. It's really important that you're aware of what you're eating, how much you're eating, and when you're eating. It's also important to note that every person's needs are unique. Guidelines should always be tailored for an individual perspective. The general guidelines do state that vegetables should be consumed 5 to 7 times a day, fruit should be 2 to 4 times a day, grains and starches 4 to 6 times a day, protein sources 2 to 4 times a day, healthy fats 1 to 2 times a day. This also means that supplements should only be consumed when foods don't meet the required quantities of micronutrients. This means if you are restricting certain foods, then you may be lacking in certain vitamins or minerals, and then supplementation may be required. Now, the general macronutrients. First, we have our carbohydrate. Carbohydrates provide the body with glucose. This is then converted into energy, and this is what supports our bodily functions and gives us the energy to exercise. When it comes to carbohydrate, the most important aspect is the type of carbohydrate you choose. This is because there are better sources that can give us the energy we need that are most slower and healthier for our bodies. Now, to understand that, you need to understand the glycemic index. The glycemic index is what responds to the type of sugars that are in our carbohydrate. These are generally categorized between simple or complex. Eating many high GI foods cause powerful spikes in our blood sugar. This is what increases our risk of type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and becoming overweight. If we want to prevent that from happening, then we need to look at our fibre. Fibre is what controls appetite and our blood glucose levels. It's what keeps us fuller for longer and releases the energy slower than our sugary foods. This creates less risk of tiredness and also protects our insulin. This is what also reduces the risk of type 2 diabetes. Now, sources that you can get these from include whole grain foods, fresh fruits, vegetables, legumes, and nuts. Following that, we have our protein macronutrient. The protein that we eat provides the body with blocks for both growth and repair of our muscles. After using the protein, it's required to replace and help improve the adaptation of our tissues. This means this is the building blocks for all different types of things in our body. It also means that it's rarely used as an energy source and should not be consumed for this reason. It's also important that you understand what sources of protein you're consuming. As you can see from the picture on the left, all of these pictures are up to 30 grams of protein, but the calories can significantly differ. 200 grams of prawns is 131 calories and 30 grams of protein in that. In the same vein, 150 grams of cashews is 30 grams of protein, but over 830 calories. So when we're looking at what proteins can fill our day and keep us full, it's also important to understand where the calories are coming from in that. Now, what dictates the calories in that is the fat. The fat that we consume has more than double the calories than any other macronutrient. This means that they are to be consumed in moderation, but should never be cut out as they are essential to a lot of the body's processes. There are generally 4 types of fats that we're aware of. These include monounsaturated, polyunsaturated, saturated, and trans fat. These are typically split into 2 categories known as good and bad. This is because of the processes and how we break them down in our body. Polyunsaturated and monounsaturated are both fats that can be broken down in the body and used as part of our body's processes. The foods that include these include oily fish, olive oil, avocado, nuts, and various seeds. Now, on the other side of that, you have what are called typically the bad fats. These are both saturated and trans fat. The reason that they are labelled this is because the body isn't able to process these as well. And generally, this is what stores as fat tissue in our body and can help us and create us becoming overweight. In particular, trans fat, with products such as biscuits, cakes, and fried food, aren't able to be broken down in our system. And these are things that really pose a health risk for us in the long term. Now, this is a typical healthy eating plate put forward by Harvard Medical School. It's a really simple yet effective way to understand what should be on our plate on a day-to-day basis. As you would expect, the biggest part of this is our vegetables. The more that you can get and the more variety you can get, the better. The traffic light system in this is really important because the more variation of colour you have, the more likely you'll have different minerals and vitamins in the diet. You should then look towards your healthy protein, followed by your whole grains and your fruits. What's also really important to remember here is the amount of water you're drinking. It's really easy to confuse hunger with thirst. So if you do find you're getting quite hungry or you think you're hungry throughout the day, make sure you always have a glass of water first. And as you would expect, try and avoid a lot of these sugary drinks that give us lots of empty calories with lots of sugar. Now, this is a really good representation of how this applies to our work routine. This picture here shows what snacking at work can do for our daily and weekly calories. On the left-hand side, somebody's routine has added 5,000 calories to their weekly total, and on the right, under 2,000 calories. Looking at the picture, there doesn't seemingly look like a huge amount of difference, but just making some simple swaps has resulted in a huge amount of calories lost. On the right-hand side, there are more fruit, less processed goods, and much more spread out food. So when you are planning your meals intake, never forget to plan your snacks as well as your meals, because you can be as organised as ever, making sure that your meals are what they should be. But if you don't pay attention to your snacks, you can see from this picture how easy it is to over-consume calories. Now, moving on to the nutritional impact of COVID-19. Recently, the NHS released a statement saying lose weight to beat COVID-19 and protect the NHS. However, not a lot of us are understanding what that means for people of different conditions. Obesity, and along with other chronic conditions such as diabetes, has been made a recognised risk factor for severe clinical outcomes of COVID-19. That's because patient management is more difficult. It is harder to incubate patients with obesity, and that is what relates in a higher mortality rate. So if you want to protect yourself from COVID-19 and you want to increase your chances of recovery, it is important to make sure you're aware of your weight in this circumstance. Now, it's also really important to remember that there is no supplement that prevents or protects you from COVID-19. There is a lot of information and misinformation out in the media at the moment stating that there's certain supplements that can help, and these are simply incorrect. There is no supplement that will help, and making sure that you have a diverse and healthy diet is the best way you can protect yourself. There are some general vitamins and minerals that can help overall immunity, and that's something that we'll be discussing later. On top of that, it's important to remember that after exercise is when you're most likely to get an illness. And all you need to do in this circumstance is make sure you're replacing the carbohydrate, which is the most promising nutritional immune protector. That's because it can help reduce the stress hormone, and therefore it will minimize the effect of exercise on your immune system. So every time you exercise, make sure that you have planned a snack or meal after containing a significant amount of carbohydrate, and this is what will do the best job for your immunity. Now, moving on to supplements. Many people do fail to eat a well-balanced variety of wholesome food, and as a result, some people do suffer from marginal nutritional deficiencies. This is also particularly the case for those people that restrict or remove certain foods from their diet. Now, yet despite the rising populations of certain supplements, most health organizations and most professionals don't recommend it. That's because whole food is comprised of far more than just vitamins. It contains the carbohydrates, the protein, the phytochemicals, fibre, and many other health protective substances that are not in pills. Simply put, that means the food you're going to eat are going to give you much more protection and much more health benefits than just popping a pill and hoping that the supplement will give you everything you need. It's very unlikely that your body will be able to digest the supplement or even give you the absorption that you're looking for. Now, that moves us on to the nutrition and immunity. It goes without saying that our immune systems do a remarkable job of protecting us, but that's not always the success we hope it to be. Risk increases in the winter months, and that's because of the cold and the lack of vitamin D from the sun. There are excess deaths reported year on year as a result of lacking in immunity. Now, many of us like the idea of boosting our immunity, but there are many ways to do this. But one of the most effective ways is adopting a healthy and diverse diet. This means eating lots of different foods, particularly a range of fruit and vegetables. The bigger the range of fruit and vegetables we eat provides us with a vast range of macronutrients. These are what the bodies require to help prevent immunity and help prevent deficiencies. These in turn can help reduce your chances of colds and illnesses. Like we say, always try to take a food-first approach as opposed to relying on supplements. The more diverse and well-balanced your diet, the less likely you will need to rely on supplements. If there are certain foods you don't eat for ethical or other reasons, make sure you always consult a medical practitioner that will be able to advise you on what you're missing from your diet. There may be other foods that you can eat first before turning to supplements to top up your nourishment. Finally, when it comes to immunity, you should always look after the gut. Lots of aspects of our immune system inhabit our gut. So most importantly, try and keep unwanted and processed foods away from the gut to help reduce its burden. This will then reduce the inflammation on your digestive processes and protect you from any other kinds of illnesses. Now we have the nutritional impact of mental well-being. The biggest part when it comes to our mental well-being with nutrition is the impact of breakfast. It has been proven time and time again within research that breakfast eaters tend to have a lower blood cholesterol. They manage their weight more successfully. They are likely to be more mentally alert, more productive, and have more energy throughout the day. If breakfast is something that isn't part of your routine, please make a chance and an opportunity to make sure that it is. You'll find that your ability to work throughout the day is increased and your output will increase with that. In addition to that, there are some particular foods that you can include in the diet that will help provide support to our brain health. These include green vegetables, a variety of berries, fatty fish, and nuts. These give the body's omega-3 fatty acids, B vitamins, and antioxidants, all playing a part in keeping our brain healthy and well. Incorporating many of these foods, particularly within a diet and on a regular basis, will help and translate into a better mental function. This is a video for you all around how to read a food label and what that means. Today we're going to be talking about some of the food labels that are out there and how to work out what is what and how to discover what we should be eating. I've got 3 products here. The first is a ready cooked basmati rice. Second is some rice cakes. Third is your bog standard brown rice. Now, when it comes to choosing a product, a lot of times we come through different questions such as convenience, or we think we're being healthier, and making those decisions are important for us as individuals, but also knowing what it is that differs between those products. So the first thing is something like your ready cooked rice. Now here it says that the ingredients are 98% cooked basmati rice, which is what you would expect, and also a bit of oil and salt. Now, if you compare that with your dried rice, the ingredients are purely long grain brown rice. So there is a slight difference when it comes to the ones that we are looking to have ready cooked. The sunflower oil is most likely used as a preservative and to make sure it lasts a bit longer. And then you've got things like your rice cakes. Now here they're called protein-packed lentil cakes, and if you notice, there'll be things that say a high source of protein. If that has that on the label, it has to abide by a certain level of protein per product, and you'll be able to find that on the back. Now, what's most interesting with these ones is there is a couple more ingredients. So obviously, as you would expect, there's some lentil flour, corn flour, protein, pea protein, potato starch, and buckwheat. Now, they all sound pretty friendly and good for us, but what we don't know is things like potato starch are a very clever way for advertisers to put in preservatives and things that make our products last longer, because potato starch just sounds like it's part of potato, but most of the time it's actually either a preservative or an additive. And that can be similar for things like corn flour as well. So it's always important to check what ingredients are actually in the product that seemingly looks pretty wholesome and not processed. Now, the next thing you want to look at is obviously the types of nutrition that you're going to get from that. So the first thing is, most of the time, obviously, if you're choosing rice, you're going to be looking at carbs. And most of them have a label that looks like this. Every single packet you read, by law, has to have per 100 grams in there. That will be uniform on any single food label you compare. So if you do get 2 products and you want to know which one's better for you, always compare the per 100, not the per serving, because the per serving is up to the manufacturer, and that can be anything they choose it to be. So always check the per 100 when comparing between 2 different products. Now, what you also then want to check is the red light and traffic light system. Now, on these ones, they have the lovely green labels to show you what is low in those products. And lovely ones like this have them on the front. Now, the thing with the ones on the front is that they don't include all the macronutrients. So make sure you're always checking the back, because it does have your fats, your saturates, your sugars, and your salt, which are probably the ones that you're most concerned with. But also, it's probably worth working out where your fibre is and how much calories you're going to be getting as a whole, and not just per serving that will be on the front. Then you also want to look at, obviously, your carbohydrate and your source of protein, because even though you're choosing maybe a carb source, you probably want to see what ones are going to give you a bit of protein to keep you fuller for longer. Now, in another video, I'll be going through what are highs and lows in products and what other ones are good for us to have in terms of where we should leave the barriers of high and low, say fat, sugar, starch, protein. But today, hopefully that's just a little bit of a help for you to understand where to choose your products and where to look on the packet for those labels, and particularly the ingredients, and particularly when you're looking for certain different ingredients in different products.
Now, moving on from that, we have something called portion distortion. This has been labelled because of the difference of portioning that has now happened within our society. If you look in this picture, you can see 3 different muffins. In 1993, an average portion of an American muffin was 85 grams. Today, those portions can vary anywhere between 72 and 130 grams. That, as a result, means for similar products and different brands, ranges in calories can go anywhere between 280 all the way up to 475 calories.
So it's really important to make sure you are always checking the label to understand how many calories are in the product you're buying. Always understand what your daily requirements are as opposed to somebody else. And more importantly, if you have the opportunity, weigh out the food that you need for your specific needs. This picture is also a very good representation of how volume of food can vary through different calories and portion sizes. Everything in this photo is 500 calories, but as you can see, the amount of food significantly varies. You can get one Big Mac for 500 calories, but you can also get over 700 grams of codfish. This is a really important representation of where we can get our calories from and how much we can get for our calories. Many people find if they're trying to eat well or better, they feel like they can eat less, but it's not always less, it's the density of calories in their food. If they are choosing well, they can still eat a significant amount of food for a good amount of calories. So this is a really, really good representation of how that happens and what you can do to get the most out of your calories throughout the day. Thank you for taking part and watching our seminar today. As part of completing this seminar, you are entitled to a 15% discount at Elly Rees Nutrition. This is where you'll have the opportunity to invest in your own personal nutrition and get some independent advice. All you need to do is go to the website and schedule yourself an appointment. When you do that, be sure to quote TSG Nutrition in your form and somebody will be in touch with you. If you'd like to follow our information and all our tips that we give out in nutrition, feel free to find us on Facebook or Instagram under the name Ditch the Myth. If you have any other questions or queries relating to your nutrition, please don't hesitate to get in contact with one of us and we'll be sure to help you on your journey towards better health and well-being. Thank you for your attention today.